Hey everyone, this is Ambi and Dan here, back with another video. Today we're doing something a little bit different. I wanted to talk about something that I have to live with, and that's scoliosis, and that's lifting with scoliosis. I have been lifting for a little over a year now, and obviously, since I have scoliosis, about a 40-degree curve in my back, and obviously I have to do things a lot differently than people who have a normal back. And I've done some research on YouTube about people who have scoliosis and like what they do to lift, and I've definitely gotten some good information from them. But I wanted to share my personal experience because I feel like each person who has scoliosis is different. So I figured if at least a couple of the things I say today can help someone who has scoliosis, that would be a good thing. So we'll get right into it. So part one, I'm just doing some general info. So obviously, I just said before, but every case is different, and each person's body responds differently to lifting, especially when you have scoliosis. So please make sure that you're listening to your body when you're doing stuff. Like I could be saying, "Don't do this lift," or "I don't do this lift," or "This lift is fine for me." If you don't like it, or you feel fine when you do it, then do it or don't do it. You don't have to just listen to what me or someone else on the internet says. If you're gonna listen to anyone, my next point is consult your doctor about it. Obviously, your doctor is what's gonna know about your scoliosis more than what I would. So obviously, if you think something might not be good, or you want to know if you should be doing it, if you're not entirely sure, ask your doctor. But obviously, yeah, if you feel good doing a lift that I might not like or someone else on the internet says don't do, um, then go ahead and do it if you're confident in your body. And if you feel bad when you're doing an exercise, especially in your back or anywhere in your spine to your neck, stop doing it. If you do not feel good, especially with scoliosis, stop doing it. There was a time when I was doing certain lifts that didn't feel great in my back, and then the next day I would wake up and I literally could not walk. I like literally this happened to me like a few months ago. So make sure you listen to your body. That is the most important thing you'll ever be able to hear if you have scoliosis. Listen to your body. So in my personal opinion, the worst exercises for you. Well, not in my opinion. It's just this one's just fact. The worst exercises you can do are the ones that compress your spine. That's the most dangerous because obviously the more pressure you put on your spine, if you have scoliosis, you're not as stable as someone who has a regular back. So that is obviously what's gonna fuck up your stability. And if you mess up on, let's say if you mess up like when you're bench pressing, that's not affecting your spine at all. If you mess up on something that's compressing your spine, that is 10 times worse for for you because you have scoliosis. So make sure if you are going to do exercises that compress your spine, be extra careful, listen to your body. And my next point, wear a belt. Like I've got a belt right here that I wear for anything like that's moderate weight or more. It's from PR Lifestyle. This one's a bit more of an expensive belt. You can get a cheaper one from Dick's. It will be if you are serious about lifting and you have scoliosis, it's the best investment you can make. Just get a belt. It's so helpful. And finally, just one more general tip, at least for me personally, isolation lifts feel a lot better than compound lifts. Obviously, we all like our bench or squat, our deadlifts, but since if you have scoliosis, that means one side of your back, your spine's curving one way. So obviously, your body is not going to be equal compared to someone else. So while for one person a compound lift might be great, for you, one side is most likely going to be a lot stronger or stable than the other side. So maybe instead of doing a seated cable row with like both hands, I'll do it with just one hand on a handle and I'll just do it for each side. Or maybe instead of a lat pull down, I'll do the kneel downs with a handle. Obviously, I still do my compound lifts because those are obviously everyone's favorite. But make sure you put extra focus on isolation on each side of your back because one side will most likely be stronger than the other if you have a severe scoliosis. I mean, I have 48 degrees like I said before, and that is, that's pretty severe for scoliosis. It's in surgery territory. So you want to make sure that you're getting each side equally and focusing it because you're not always gonna be equal. Like when I do certain exercises, you can tell one side doesn't get the same range of motion. Like for cable flies, one side of my arm is gonna be further back than the other side, and that's just in general with most scoliosis patients. They don't have equal range of motion just because obviously you can't put your hand back as much. So that's that. All right, so for part two, we're going to be going over some lifts that I avoid entirely. I've written down four. Obviously, I'm sure there's more that I shouldn't be doing, but these are just the four I could think of and the most obvious ones to me. And obviously, you might not be able to do them either. You might be able to do them. You might not. You might feel perfectly fine doing them. You might feel terrible doing them. So this is just my personal experience. Number one is standing calf raises. Obviously, you're putting pressure on your shoulders. You're putting all the weight on your shoulders. I can do them if I do like super lightweight, but there's just no reason for me to do them because seated calf raises feel a lot better. So standing calf raises, I don't want to do them. I don't like doing them because I feel my back gets really pushed down, especially on certain machines. There's some machines that are a lot better, but most of the standing calf raises I've done, I just don't like it when I go above a certain weight. And I've heard about some horror stories about scoliosis, people with scoliosis doing standing calf raises and like their maybe like their core like on braces for a second and their disc collapse. So I don't want to do that. That's what I personally avoid. Number two is a barbell shoulder press. I just prefer dumbbells. Obviously, barbell shoulder press. Any overhead press is compressing your spine, and barbell to me, you have to load the weight a lot more, and I can't do heavy weight on those because of my back. Because I feel it starts curving my back a lot more like this, and it makes my spine super unstable. So I try to avoid any, especially standing. By the way, seated I can get away with if I do lightweight for reps. Standing, absolutely not. So I would avoid those entirely, especially if you have severe scoliosis. Number three, I don't know if this machine has an actual name, but the unsupported hack squats. So like, they might be like a joint machine with standing calf raises. Anything where you don't have your back up against something and you're just standing and squatting and you're putting all the weight on your shoulders. The hack squat machine. I don't do those at all. There's no reason to do them. If you could just do a regular hack squat machine, or if you're gonna do just do back squats at that point because then at least you're getting a better movement. And I feel like that's even though those are even dangerous too, but it's still I feel like those are safer and more practical than the unsupported hack squat machine. You're putting so much weight on your shoulders. Because there's ways around it on back squats or front squats, but on this there's no way around it. You're putting all the weight on your spine, so I just avoid those entirely. And the final one is the clean and jerk. I don't really have much to say about this one, just because I mean it's pretty obvious what it would do to your back, and I've only done them once, and it felt terrible on my back. I couldn't walk the next day after doing them. So I never do them, so I can't really put much input into those. I'm sure if someone who has scoliosis and does them has more information on it, feel free to leave a comment on it. But yeah, I just don't do those either. All right, part three. These are kind of a continuation of the last part, but these are lifts that I can still do, and I still do them from time to time, or even commonly, but I have to be extra cautious with. Number one, first and foremost, back squats. Everyone knows, obviously, if you're putting pressure on your spine, it's bad for scoliosis people specifically. And with back squats, you're obviously putting a barbell on your back. So I still do them, but I go a lot less weight. I do more rep work. And if I do ever go for a PR, I make sure I feel great that day. I go for PR. I go for PR like every few months. I don't force it at all. I know a lot of people like the ego lift stuff. It's extra dangerous to ego lift when you have scoliosis and you're doing lifts like this because one wrong movement and you could literally fuck up your back for the rest of your life. So when I do them, I do it a bit differently. I know most people like to go much more upright when they're doing it. Um, I I lower my back a bit more and make it go more slanted and put all the pressure on my legs because I feel like when you're doing it, when it's on your back and you're upright, it's a lot more pressure on your shoulders. So I try to take as much pressure off my spine as possible by leaning down. I still get as much stuff as I can. I'll probably put a video up of me when I do it. But yeah, for back squats, if you're gonna do them with scoliosis, make sure you're extra careful. Wear your belt when you're above a certain weight, or if even just at all times if you want to. Obviously, it varies from person to person, but yeah. The second one is dumbbell shoulder press. I do these a lot. I just find it as the better alternative to barbell for me because it's first of all it's more isolation focused because you're using a dumbbell. You get more range of motion for each side, and I don't feel as much pressure on my back. I can load up the weight a lot more. I can do heavier weight for more reps since I'm not using a barbell. And just all around, I mean, obviously, I still feel pressure on my back and my spine if I go super heavy. So I try not to go super heavy, but it, I just find them as a better alternative to barbell for me. The third one is standing rows. So anything where you're not being supported, any row where you're not being supported and you're standing up. So if you're doing a chest supported like T-bar row or a chest supported seated row or seated cable rows, those are perfectly fine for me. But anything standing like a bent over row or a bent over like machine row, or I don't know, like dumbbell rows. I don't do them a ton, but when I do them, I have to be extra cautious to do a lot less weight. But I find it's putting a lot of pressure on my back, and I don't even get the full range of motion since my back is uneven anyways. So for me, they're not great, but maybe for you, they might be great. And finally, barbell RDL. pretty much the same issue with standing rows that I, it's just if I go too heavy, it'll put so much pressure on my back. So when I do them, I go light. But honestly, for hamstrings, I find for me, dumbbell RDLs are a better alternative. Prone leg curls, seated leg curls, they all hit my hamstrings just fine. But I will hit a barbell RDL from time to time, especially if a friend's at the gym and they want to hit those. But yeah. All right, so this part is going to be entirely about deadlifts because I feel like I've seen online a lot of people like to say that if you have scoliosis, or even doctors will say if you have scoliosis, don't do deadlifts. But for me personally, I've never had an issue with deadlifting with scoliosis. Obviously, you have to be very cautious with it, like anything. But I feel like deadlifts specifically are a high risk exercise for anyone. I don't think it's specific to just scoliosis. People have scoliosis. And I feel like as long as you always use a belt, I think everyone has the same risk. I actually don't think that your scoliosis really affects it. And I could be completely wrong. Maybe there are people out there who have gotten injured because they have scoliosis and they're doing deadlifts. I've been deadlifting for months now, and I've gone from being able to only do 185 to 405. I've never gotten injured. I've never even been sore from it. I have had no issues with it, and I'm sure maybe there's a chance I will get injured from it. I don't think it'll be because I have scoliosis. Because I've had doctors tell me, like, when I first started doing it, like, oh, you shouldn't do them, like it's dangerous. I think they're dangerous for everyone, and I've even athletes will say that, like, athletes don't deadlift really at all because of how dangerous the lift is itself. So I think if you're gonna deadlift, I don't think your scoliosis is holding you back. But obviously, do what you feel like, do what your body tells you. If your body's telling you this hurts, don't fucking do it. Just wear a belt, be cautious, and don't ego lift. You shouldn't ego lift in the first place, but if you have scoliosis, like I keep saying before, do not ego lift because it is way more dangerous. But yeah, for deadlifts, I don't know. I've had no issues with it, so I just wanted to make that a little point here because I know a lot of people like to say that deadlifts are bad for people with scoliosis. I think that, I mean, it's not compressing your spine down. You're pulling up, and I use my legs a lot more with deadlifts. I know a lot of people like don't use their legs at all. They almost just pull it up with their back. I like to use my legs a lot more, which maybe that's why I've had no issues with it. But yeah, anyways, we'll move on to the next part. All right, so the final thing I want to talk about is just recovery and like pre-recovery. I guess that's what it's called. I don't know the word for it. But anyways, just what I do before lifts or after lifts to recover from stuff because my back is obviously more prone to being sore. Uh, just some basic stuff. I use a foam roller if my back feels tight or sore. I got one in the back of my room over there. I'm not gonna go get it on it. You know what a foam roller is. I just use that to get out any kinks in my back, either before or after a lift. Before lifts, especially if my back is tight, but I try to do it all the time. Just go on a pull-up bar and I just hang there for about 30 seconds. It just stretches out my back a lot, makes me feel, I don't know, it makes my back feel a lot more loose. It's just good for me. People like to do this even without scoliosis. This is all stuff that most people do even without scoliosis. So, take it with a grain of salt. The PVC pipe before anything with my shoulders or back, where you go like that. It's always good to get the good stretch in. And if I'm feeling any extra pain that I know isn't really dangerous pain, it just is soreness for my back, because my back, I'll just have back pain, but it's not really an injury. I kind of know when it's injury pain or when it's just soreness from scoliosis. Take Tylenol or a painkiller if it's necessary. I wouldn't rely on these. If you have to take it before every lift, something's probably wrong, and I wouldn't lift. But every once in a while, it's fine. Or after lift if your back is sore. I don't know if this is for every scoliosis patient, but for me, I always know if my back is actually injured or if it's just pain from like just general pain. Maybe that's just a me thing, but yeah. Anyways, just to wrap things up, always remember to be safe when you lift, with or without scoliosis. Especially if you have scoliosis, make sure you are dotting your T's and crossing your T's and dotting your I's. Um, don't ego lift at all in general, but if you have scoliosis, especially hammer that down. Don't do, especially for anything on your back that has to use your back. Your health is more important than a PR. That's always important. Like, make sure keep your back good. It's very serious if you have severe scoliosis. If it's a minor thing, obviously don't follow this video, or if some of the stuff I said doesn't resonate with you, you don't have to follow it. But if there's always one thing, just do not ego it. Don't force PRs. It'll come to you naturally. It comes to me naturally. And yeah, anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope I could have helped at least some of you. And if you have any questions or anything to add, you can feel free to leave a comment. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video.